Hello, hello, hello. Greetings and welcome to Storytime with Stephanie. I'm your host, Stephanie Outen, and I'm so excited to be with y'all tonight. You all know that Storytime with Stephanie is a platform where we talk to new and upcoming, as well as existing, rising authors that want to be able to share in various platforms about the books and the other things that they're working on. And tonight is no different. So with Storytime with Stephanie, you can join us live. You can watch on the replay on our YouTube channel at It's Storytime with Stephanie. You can also listen to us on any of your major podcasting platforms. And so tonight we have with us Anthony AJ Joyner. So we're going to be calling him AJ tonight. And AJ is the author of Atlanta Fish Fry. Now, you all know that we normally talk to authors who have done like nonfiction, self-help, and it's rare that we do a fiction book. This one's actually fiction based on true life, but I'm a fiction buff and I love fiction. So I was so excited to have AJ here. Now, with a creative spark that ignites galaxies, he's a force to be reckoned with in the realms of technology, entrepreneurship, publishing, and has an unwavering commitment to personal growth. As the founder of the AI-powered software writing platform, Blooksy.com, AJ has unleashed a literary revolution. Its ingenious features have earned the trust of prestigious universities, K-12 schools, the Atlanta mayor's office, and a legion of passionate wordsmiths. Prior to building Blooksy, he built software for industry giants like CDC, Delta Airlines, and the Georgia Department of Transportation. You can tune in every Tuesday to hear AJ on the #1 faith-based drive time radio show in the country, the Willie Moore Jr. Show, in 34 cities across the United States. And when AJ isn't dazzling with his literary wizardry, try saying that 3 times, or dominating airwaves, he proudly represents Southern University, which he says is the #1 undisputed HBCU in America. Rooted in his native land of Louisiana, AJ embodies the spirit of a small town kid affectionately raised by his grandmother and his community. He loves authentic Louisiana, and during football season, you'll find him shouting "Who dat?" with unbridled enthusiasm in support of his New Orleans Saints during football season. So everyone, let's welcome Anthony AJ Joyner, author of Atlanta Fish Fry. AJ, are you with us? Hey,
I am with you. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for doing this.
Oh, well, we are so glad you said yes to season 6 of Storytime with Stephanie. And so I
Wow,
am excited.
I'm excited. Season 6. That's impressive. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's so amazing how God works. Like we started with this little backdrop, and then all of a sudden the show has grown, and we picked up a YouTube following now, and we're just
Wow.
amazed. We've talked to so many authors over the past 6, 5 seasons now, season 6, and I'm just blessed to have you here because this was such an interesting story, and I want for you to kind of give a quick synopsis of
Okay.
what Atlanta Fish Fry is about, and then we're going to talk about it in a little bit more depth.
Sure. So, well, again, thank you so much for having me. And my name is Anthony Joyner. Everybody calls me AJ. So, the fish fry is it's based on a true story. I did fictionalize it, but it's largely about community, tradition, and family. And then the power of community being able to come together to overcome challenges. And I guess the protagonist, Anthony, in the story, um, is, he's in a new city. He's from a very, very small community in Louisiana where essentially everyone knew everyone. But he finds himself living in a new city, and he's trying to bring that same small town sort of community camaraderie that he grew up with to the new city. And he faces different challenges throughout that process. But yes, so it's in the entire book sort of unfolds with the challenges that he's up against while he's trying to bring the community together. But as when he was growing up, he finds that food is always, always, always a common denominator.
Yeah, it
So,
is.
growing up, He attended fish fries at his church, but also because his grandmother was sort of a leader in the church and a leader in the community. She spent a lot of time cooking and bringing family together. So that's what he brings forward to the new city with him. And again, this is based on a true story. I actually did a fish fry and it went viral. And it ended up being like a really big deal with a lot of things that sort of spun off from that. Even the software that I built today is sort of has its roots in that as well. So
Oh, that's pretty awesome. So when I started reading the book, and especially when I read kind of the back, and I realized, hey, this is a story about a man's desire to really save his community from
hmm
gentrification. And if anyone,
hmm
kind of lives in a neighborhood where that's happening, and I live in Tampa, Florida, and I see it in
okay.
some of the communities, Seminole Heights area, Ybor City, where you know gentrification is real, and you
Yes,
see the community being kind of overrun and taken over by these major organizations, corporations that want to tear everything down and
sure.
create these new communities. And so here's Anthony in the book who desires to save his community, save his neighborhood from
hmm
gentrification. And so
hmm
that was your actual experience.
So part of it was sort of based in that because again, in every city USA, this is happening. To your point, exactly. And as a matter of fact, I have experience being on the business side of that. And here's what I mean. Not long after moving to Atlanta, I was part of one of the initiatives that provided um, computer literacy training to residents of a housing project or a couple housing projects here in Atlanta. So they got, free food, free transportation to take this computer literacy course. And this is back in the 90s. And as a result of us training those people, the goal was ultimately to empower them with skills that would get them better jobs and reskill them so that they could move out of the housing projects. That was short term, but the long term political goal for that was to turn those projects into condos.
Mm,
And that's exactly what happened, right? So again, you see things like that, and on one end, you're thinking, "Oh my God, they're bringing this new training to the city," right?
mhm.
And that's good. You always want people to be skilled and things like
Right,
that. But the longer term vision, you may not always know the motive to things like that. So
right.
it starts out as, "Oh my God, I want to buy your house from you for cash,
Hmm.
and I'll buy your house for $100,000 more than you can sell it for." But what you may not know is the money that you use to buy that, you will not be able to go buy a house for that same amount that you pay
Right.
or that they pay you, right? And what'll happen is you'll find yourself in an apartment
Mhm.
with a lot of money in the bank, but then after 2 years, the money's gone and now you're renting, right?
Yeah.
So again, this is more about trying to make the people in his community understand sort of the longer term vision, so that in his opinion, they're not short sighted and trying to take this money and run.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it starts. But yes, so through food, it's about bringing people together so that you can share
Mhm.
in those, dealing with the setbacks, and create a shared experience so that you can communicate things sort of on a human level.
Yeah. Excellent. Now, in the story,
Mhm.
Anthony is a content writer, correct?
Yes, copywriter. Yep.
A copywriter. And he is kind of in a position that he's just not interested in. He can't stand his boss. He and his coworker, Kevin, they kind of joke around all day. And his mind is never really on work, right?
Ever.
And so here he is in this place now of having this burning desire. And I started asking myself some questions really early into the story, in regards to what was really driving him, what was his motivation, because it seemed
hmm
like Anthony was willing to just drop everything to
hmm
focus on these fish fries to save the neighborhood. But deeper down, there was something else going on, right? For someone to
Yes.
just kind of drop everything, not really focus on work. The character Anthony is married to Renee, and there were some issues there in the marriage where he was just willing to do whatever he wanted to do, not necessarily regarding her feelings. And it led to some challenges, throughout the book.
Yeah, that is accurate. That will be accurate. So again, that does reflect real life, not only with the character, but for anyone who may be watching this. How many times have you, on a Sunday night, you get that tightness in your chest because you know the next morning you got to get up and go to this job that you hate, and you know that you got to sit in traffic and go. And this is prior to the pandemic, right? When this happened, but you got to go sit in traffic for an hour, get on the elevator with that person that you really don't care about that much, make small talk that you really don't want to make, and then you got to go to lunch with these people that you really don't like, and they're
Mm.
trying to add you on social media, and you really don't want to be their friends, but you really don't. You really want to be a team player, and you really need that check.
Yes,
Right. So I
yes.
think, a lot of us, there's a book that I read called The Second Mountain. And
Mm.
what it talks about in The Second Mountain is, and I'm sure probably 95% of the people listening can understand that, when you're young and the world is sort of your oyster, you start out gung-ho in life, right? You're like, especially, just a lot of times, I'm second generation college graduate in in our family. So
Mhm.
a lot of times you will, you go through life, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to get this job, and I'm going to get this career, and I'm just
Right.
going to work really hard, and I'm going to work my way up the ladder, and I'm going to become the boss, and then I'll be the
Mm.
CEO, and then but once you get into the job, you realize, wait a minute, this is not, number one, it's not fulfilling,
Right.
because you chose your career when you were in high school
Mm.
based on what your high school guidance counselor thought you were good at and your
Mm.
grades. You're not even an adult. You don't know anything about yourself. You don't know anything about life. So the reference that I made earlier to the book called The Second Mountain, it talks about the first mountain that we climb is the mountain of trying to fit into a world that we don't quite understand.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
and then you get to the top of that mountain and you realize, wait a minute, this is the wrong mountain. Like, I've done all this hard work. I hate my life. I don't like this person that I've chosen when I was really young. They
Yeah.
don't like me. We've grown into two different people, and then you're like, what am I going to do?
Mhm.
Well, on the top of that mountain, now you got to go down the valley. And that's where you take off all those things that you learned, all the things you realize corporate America don't really care about you.
That's
You
right.
realize I had locks, like you do. A lot of times people will go through these huge transformations where they'll cut their hair.
Yeah.
And I always joke with my sister about that. I'm like, you're gonna cut your hair after the breakup.
Right. Why do we do that?
Right.
Like we think we're
That's
shedding
just a running
everything.
joke, right? Yeah. So it's a running joke. So Anthony finds himself in this position where, he started out as this really hard working, hard charging guy, who wanted all these different things, in the corporate space. But then once he reaches the pinnacle of that first mountain, now he realizes, oh, this is not the mountain that I was supposed to climb. But
Mm.
we never know that there's a second mountain until we get to the top of the first one. And that's unfortunate because my grandmother says, youth is wasted on the young.
Yeah.
It's because, we're chasing all the wrong things, but we don't know any better.
Right.
And we don't want to listen to people telling us what the older people like, you can't tell us nothing. You 50 years old. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Now I'm 50, but when you're young, you don't want to hear that, right? So you're charging hard. But in this book, he's in a career, much like lots of people, that he doesn't love. He's doing all this work that he doesn't enjoy anymore. But now he's
Mm.
found this thing that he's passionate about, and he hasn't quite figured out how to monetize it. But he know there's something there, and it's just
Yeah.
eating him. And he's willing to burn the entire ship down, to go after that thing, right?
That part.
Um, Correct.
That
So there are lots of us, and even me now as an entrepreneur, there are lots of decisions that sometimes you have to make that are hard,
mm,
that they may not make all the people around you happy,
mm,
but you have one life that's yours to live, and
mm,
if you live that life sacrificing for jobs, for other people, for friends, for family,
mm.
then you'll find yourself at the top of the first mountain, sort of lost, right?
Yeah.
And if you don't do sort of that, I know people like to talk about the internal work or whatever you call that. But if you don't do that sort of deep breath and realize, like, okay, it's going to take a while. I have to go down this mountain that I just spent all this time climbing, but there is an opportunity to build something different, build something that
Mm,
I enjoy, and then figure it out that way. It's not always easy, and it can be embarrassing sometimes when you have to go down the mountain, and it can be public. There
mm,
can be people saying, "I told you so," but I can't tell you personally right now how many people that I know who have been. I have a really dear friend of mine. She's been in education I've known her since high school,
mhm.
uh, and she's about to retire in a little while. You know, I'm old. I'm aging myself.
I'm
But
like,
anyway,
you went to high school with her and yeah, I don't think that was
yeah,
supposed to be in the same sentence.
yeah, but yeah, so but she's been doing that her entire career, and she
Mm,
hates it.
mm,
And now that's the only skill that she has,
mm.
right? So imagine having one skill that you've done for 30 years, and now you don't have another skill.
Right,
So
right.
now it's a scary new world. She's learning these new things that she's learning about herself. But again, so you know, to take it back to the book,
Mhm,
he's at this place where he's restless.
mhm.
He's in that sort of in between place, and he's anxious, but he's found this one little thing that's a sort of a spark, and he's going after it.
And it's interesting because when you talk about this book, Second Mountain, that deconstruction process can be very, very difficult, right?
Yes,
When
yes.
you are so accustomed to doing something for so long, and then all of a sudden you realize, I can't do this anymore. But then you have
Mhm.
to start peeling away those layers, and that is very painful, right?
Is painful because it's layers of yourself, it's
Yes.
layers of people, it's
Yep.
layers of relationships, it's layers of family ties, it's layers of careers, it's layers of things that you used to like that you don't like anymore. So it's all those layers have to be sort of looked at, and sort of combed through. And in the beginning, sometimes when you comb all this stuff out, you're kind of bare,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And then you got to figure out, okay, now that I'm bare, what do I like now?
Yeah. What do I fill the space with? Because
Hmm.
the space was filled with all the junk. And now the
Yes,
junk is gone.
the
And now
junk
I
is
need to
gone.
fill it with the good stuff. And I don't even know what I want or desire.
I
And
don't know. Yep.
this thing that Anthony latched onto became a desire that I don't even think he realized that he really needed fulfilled in his life until that first fish fry. And
Absolutely.
he saw how this fish fry brought his neighborhood together, but it also
Hmm.
did something in his soul, right?
Hmm.
That was the most
Hmm.
important thing outside of it bringing the neighborhood together, which when I first started reading the book, the thing that clicked for me was the whole idea of community and neighborhood,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I'm
Hmm.
originally from Brooklyn. And I was sharing with a friend that,
Oh, I just left Brooklyn.
all right, we're gonna talk about that. But I was sharing with a friend that ever since I left Brooklyn, I I've kind of lived all over the place, but I've spent the
Hmm.
majority of my time in Florida, and I have never felt like I've lived in a neighborhood that was a community. Right? I've
Mm.
had neighbors, but they've not always been neighborly. And
Hmm.
I've lived in communities, but it never felt like a community where we were
Hmm.
bonded together, right? And so
Hmm.
to see what Anthony was able to do in his neighborhood to bring them together as a community through a fish fry was so. I mean, literally, I called my friend. I was like, "Girl, I feel like should we have a fish fry? Like, what should we do?" Because
Listen, it works.
I see it worked, and but the funny thing about this story, and you can tell me how close to reality it was, that
Hmm.
Anthony was Anthony was willing to risk everything, like almost his life and his wife, his job, all these things just to be able to focus on this one thing. But again, everyone outside of him saw it as it's a fish fry, but Anthony saw it as something more. It was something that he needed to be able to fill him. So, how close was that to reality for you?
That is, it's pretty spot on. Um, again, I've never been, I guess, risk. I've never been afraid of taking a chance,
Yeah.
for better or worse sometimes. But yeah, so that is exactly what it was, right? It started out as just actually the reality of it was a birthday party. That's how it started, and it was just sort of a thing. But then once it was a block party kind of situation, right? It was a dead end street, so
Mm-hmm.
the street was blocked off, and all the neighbors came, and all the neighbors invited their friends.
Yep.
Um, the first one was sort of a potluck, but mostly it was Anthony that paying for everything.
Okay.
And it was one of those BYOB affairs, right? We had all the fish, we had all the fish and the fries and the hush puppies and the coleslaw and those things. Everyone else just brought alcohol.
Okay.
Then we had a DJ, you know what I'm saying? It was the whole. the DJ literally on the front porch, and the street was the dance floor.
Wow.
And it completely filled up. And then looking out over that, and I still remember it, it kind of gives me chills thinking about it. I remember standing on the porch, looking at people out there dancing, and reminding me of something we used to do back in Louisiana. Like it was called a trail ride, where a whole community would get together and sort of like have a bonfire and cook crawfish and fish and corn and like all the things. But that moment was sort of one of those aha moments where you saw people who had not known each other. And it was everybody from dope boys to politicians to church
Yeah.
people to sororities and fraternities and politicians. And I have a hugely diverse group of friends, circle of friends. They were all out there together.
Wow.
Crackheads and politicians and church folks and, you know, everybody. Because one thing about people is we're complicated, right? And it's just, we have this tapestry of, you know, I say every Black family is related. If you know what I mean? Like if you go to a family reunion, everybody has that one auntie.
Yes.
That's, you know, the rich auntie. That's a stereotype for a reason, right?
Yeah.
Everybody has that uncle that he ain't quite doing everything he's supposed to be doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Grandpa done stepped. I mean, you know, we all have these storylines, and it's true. They're largely true for a reason. So, but seeing that, it made him realize that, you know, even in that community, as diverse as it was, and there were, you know, the couple that lived next door, it was a gay couple. Like there was two guys that were ballet dancers. In real life, they were like ballet dancers.
Oh, wow.
Right. And then there were some college kids up in the next house over. And there was a white couple who had just moved in because of gentrification. Then there was a couple down the street who had been there 40 plus years. And there was the old crazy lady who used to have push the shopping cart down the street with all the junk on it. It was everything, right?
That's Junkman in the story.
That's the junk man in the story. Yeah. So all that was real, right? But what he realized in that is all these people are family, right? And if there's something that's coming to tear this neighborhood apart, and then you need to sort of lock arms and fight against that thing, right? So that's sort of that aha moment that he realized when all the people were together and out dancing.
See, yeah, and those are the things that reminded me so much of my time in Brooklyn, because we would have block parties just for no reason, right?
Yes.
Especially when there was a blackout. Blackout meant everybody come out, shut the whole block down, whatever you could find to turn on music, whoever had food in their house brought it out, and we just had so much fun. And so, like, I kind of started getting choked up, like, reading this, because, again, I have not felt that since I lived in Brooklyn. So that was a long time ago. And you brought such a level of camaraderie in this story, right? Every person was willing to support Anthony's dream of doing this fish fry to bring the community together, to save the community. And so, thinking about some of the things that were occurring in the story. Now, I have to be honest. I wanted to beat Anthony's behind.
Yep. Most people do. At one point or another.
Yeah, at one point I was like, I am through, because I felt like, you know, I would not say that Anthony did not respect his wife, Renee, and her thoughts and opinions, but he was more so consumed with something that he needed to fulfill him, that he was willing to kind of disregard some of the things that she was thinking and saying and feeling. And so it put me in this place of feeling like, why would he do that? She's like his biggest support system, and he's literally pushing her away, right? So why did you bring that element into this story when it was really supposed to be so much about bringing things together, and here it was this element that was being torn apart?
People are complicated, right? And a lot of times when you have someone who is unhappy in one aspect of their life, and then they find this one thing that they think that could be a source of, could breathe life into their sort of droning on experience, you want to latch on to that. That's the thing that it gives you air, right? And anything or anyone that goes against that in that story specifically could seem like they're going against you, and there's no separation between the thing that you desire and the thing that you desire and you as a person, right? So I think the character just didn't understand how to separate those two things. And as a result, it's almost, have you ever talked to someone and you offer them constructive criticism, but they think you're actually attacking them? Has that ever
That's
happened to you?
a lot.
Right. It's one of those situations, right? It's lack of emotional intelligence and awareness
Mm-hmm.
to understand, like, hey, this person wants the best for you,
Yeah.
but they don't necessarily agree with your approach on doing things.
Yeah.
But then there's another part of it that is just a personality thing, right? Some people are throw caution to the wind, and some people are planners,
Yes.
right? And neither is right or wrong.
Yeah.
They're
Just has
just
to be a
different.
balance in between. If you're
They're,
together, there needs to be a balance.
maybe,
Mm.
right? So that's what I'm saying. So some people think that there needs to be a balance, and I can't tell you, just even again, there's Anthony the character, then there's but just in life in general, at times, sometimes there will not be what people perceive as balance,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the top 10 most successful people in the world, you look at your Oprahs and their life. Like, I read Oprah's autobiography, I'm sorry, it wasn't her autobiography, it was the summation of all the things she accomplished.
Mm-hmm.
She would work from 4 in the
Yeah.
morning to 11 to 10 at night.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the people that told her she was working too hard, she wouldn't listen. Like, why would I listen to someone who's not doing as well as me but telling me I'm working too hard? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right.
but you find that same thread over and over. Not that you don't care about the people that care about you, but it's just that the success that you want. And I read Arnold Schwarzenegger's, it was the same thing,
Mm.
right? His ex-wife actually wrote a book about his ex-girlfriend, that he wouldn't marry her because he
Oh
said
wow.
she wasn't driven enough. And then he
Okay.
ended up marrying the lady, Maria
Oh,
Shriver, I guess her name is.
Maria Shriver. Yeah.
Right. But the point is, his story was the same. Sam Walton,
Mm-hmm.
he wrote his autobiography. It was in his dying days. And he said, his whole life he wanted to build a business so no one in his family would ever have to work outside of the
Yeah.
business again.
Yeah.
So he sacrificed all his relationships. He didn't have a good relationship with his children or his wife or his family.
Mm-hmm.
None of them.
Yeah.
He taught them business, and that was his goal. And in
Mm.
his dying days, they asked him, would he do it if he had to do it again? Would he do it differently? He said no,
Mm.
because if he did it differently, Walmart wouldn't exist the way that it exists
So
today,
true. That's so
right?
true.
So there's always that one person that becomes the martyr a lot of times, and that's the person. Steve Jobs, they say, he was a jerk to be around.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like Jeff Bezos, like Elon Musk, even the Tyler Perrys and your,
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Hart's, they
Yeah.
work undyingly,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it really depends on what you want your life to look like and
Mm-hmm.
the ultimate outcome that you want. There's nothing wrong with people who are, balanced, and they're like, I got to spend this time with my family, I got to spend this time with this. That's fine. That's a way to do things. But I
Mm-hmm.
think to villainize someone who's saying, well, no, I need to make these sacrifices so I can reach this higher level. I just
Mm-hmm.
think that it's just a different way of approaching things.
And when I say balance, I mean, here's this
Yeah.
relationship between Renee
Yeah.
and Anthony, where he's like, I'm just gonna throw caution to the wind. I'm gonna run out there. I'm not gonna get weather insurance, and it's gonna pour all over me, but I don't care, right? And you have Renee, who is balanced, who is thinking, who is planning, and
Sure.
she wants to be that voice of reason
Sure.
in what feels to her unreasonable, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so you sometimes you need that. You need that voice of
You
reason. You
absolutely
need that
do.
balanced person to kind of take you down a bit, because you could potentially put yourself in a situation, as we saw with Anthony in
Yes.
the book,
Yep. Sure did.
right, where he allowed something to linger so long before getting checked that it caused health risks for him, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
so that was the part where I was like, oh my God, like, does he
Yeah.
not love this woman enough to just go to the doctor? Like, just go to the doctor, Anthony. I wanted to
Hmm.
just jump through the book and I wanted to take him to the doctor myself.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's one of those things, right? Sometimes life has to sit you down,
Yeah.
and that's what ultimately ended up happening.
Mhm.
But again, it's this is a real sort of a real snapshot into lots of people's lives today, right? Where, you know, you're driven and you're doing all these things and you tend to ignore some of the
Mhm.
things that are most important. And that could be your health, that could be close relationships, that can be even, I listened to an interview with Shaquille O'Neal, and
Mhm.
he says that he has a 100,000 square foot house and nobody in it.
Mhm.
And I'm like, whoa,
Yeah,
whoa,
that
right?
sounds
And
miserable.
it sounds miserable, right? So again, it's but you know, again, humans are complicated,
Mhm.
and sometimes when you're in the moment, it's hard to look up and sort of peer over the fence and realize, like, hey, man, there's, you know, the grass ain't greener,
Right.
and you know, cherish what you have,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So I think all those are lessons that can be learned.
Mhm.
Like you said, when a character can take you to a certain emotion, that means there's a certain connection there that you feel like almost like this is my friend. This, why don't you take care of yourself, friend? Like you're, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that
I
was kind
didn't
of
want
the
anything to happen to him. I felt like, oh my God, like
right. If he just do this thing,
if he would just do this, because we see it happen in real life, right?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
you don't want this character to go through the
Hmm.
same thing. And you said that life has a way of sitting you down. And when
Hmm.
someone gets a health diagnosis like Anthony received in the book, they often will sit down and
Yes.
crumble and
Hmm.
allow the diagnosis to define the rest of their life. But
Hmm.
in this book, the character Anthony kind of didn't, he sat down for a second and his cousin Michael was like, okay, good, look, we got to go. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
everybody needs that kind of Michael in their life that's going to
One
pull
hundred
them out.
percent.
Yeah. Pull them out of
Hmm.
that dark place before they can even get into that dark place. Right. And
Hmm.
so here was Anthony who didn't even really sit down. He was like, okay, look, I got to go and do another fish fry.
Stubborn boy. He's a Taurus.
But I love that drive and determination because it's what allowed him to really continue over and over to not just bring his local community together, his neighborhood together, but he literally brought the whole community together.
Hmm.
And similar to what you
Hmm.
said about you got the drug dealers, you got the gangs, you got the, you know,
The
the drunk
preachers and
people, the
yep,
preachers, the councilmen, they're all there, and
hmm,
no one sees the other person as less than. Everyone sees
correct.
as equals, right? Because we're all just here to support this effort. And thinking about your own personal experiences, because you said
Hmm.
this went viral. You did a fish
Yeah, I
fry that
did. I
went viral.
did.
Tell us a little bit about how that happened, because I don't want to give away the whole book, because I do want people to
Sure.
buy the book at
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
atlantafishfry.com, atlantafishfry.com. I want people to buy the book. I love the cover too, right?
Thank
Because
you.
you really do need to read the story, and it will enlighten you. There's some nuggets, like everybody who watches the show, they know I am the post-it queen. I'm the highlight queen. You'll see highlighting and all that throughout the story, right? Because I love
Sure.
the nuggets that you drop. But kind of tell
Thank
us
you.
about the true story of how your fish fry went viral.
Yep. So now in real life, part of one of the things that or hats that I wore was a party slash event promoter.
Okay.
And that was so yes, there was the real job, and then there was the sort of party kind of guy.
Mhm. Okay.
um, so you know, doing an event of the sort wasn't a strange thing. But you know, once the first thing happened and I saw the energy, I thought there was something there,
Hmm.
right? One thing that you said that I want to highlight is that in an environment like that, people are just people,
Hmm.
right? So I saw that, and you know, there was the camaraderie, there was hugging and dancing and like the whole thing. I was like one huge melting pot of friends from all over the world eating fish, right?
Hmm.
So when I did it again, it went from a smallish gathering to 200 or so people.
Yeah.
Uh, and then from 200 people, the next one we did in another neighborhood, that's when I hired security, off duty
Okay.
cops, you know, hired them. They came in with the clicker counter to count people. Over 600 people. We ended up blocking off a major interstate in Atlanta in both directions because there were so many cars.
Wow.
News helicopters, police helicopters. everything. Like we made the news that night. Like they didn't know what was going on. By the time the police department got there, the police officer who was off duty talked to them and talked to the other cops, and they were like, "It's just a fish fry." So they were like, "Look, man, we got to shut it down at 1 o'clock," because they got there around 8 o'clock, and traffic was a complete nightmare. As a matter of fact, the policemen and the firemen had to walk a mile and a half to get to the party because it was a parking lot.
Oh my God.
But when they got there, they ended up eating fish.
Of course. I would
Right.
too.
And the commissioner was there, and he was like, "Who are you?" Like, who, he gave me his card. He was like, "Who are you? And how did you get all these people together?" And that's when we ended up partnering with the county.
Okay. Okay. So that's totally true. Yeah.
Right. That's exactly. So we partnered with the county, and then it only got bigger from there. So it turned into a fireworks show. We had an old school hip hop concert with Chubb Rock and MC Shannon,
Oh
DJ
wow.
Cool, and then we had a comedy show with Carlos Miller. You may have seen him on the 85 South show. He was there. Carlos Miller, Zoo Man, a lot of comedians were there. We had two live bands perform. We had a fireworks show. We had horseback riding. We had vendors. We had the whole kit and caboodle. So that, yeah, that's all true.
Now, was this happening like annually, or were you doing this quarterly? Like, how often
I
from
did
the
it.
first one?
We did it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 5 times total. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, we did it 5 times total. So, and that
Okay.
was over probably a 2.5 year span.
Okay. Okay.
So it
And
was
what
like twice a
year
year.
was this? What year was this happening?
Ooh, maybe 2010, maybe
Okay.
10, 2011, something like that. Somewhere
Because
around
I
2010,
lived in
2011,
Atlanta.
2012.
Okay, I lived in Atlanta from 2007 to 2008 or 2000, close to 2009. I'm like, dang, I
Okay.
didn't know any. Okay, so it happened after I
Yeah,
left.
and it went viral. Like we had people flying in from all over the country because we had people that met there. Now they're married with kids.
Oh, wow.
We've had like it literally became a thing that people were just like, man, when is the next fish? Even to this day, people ask about fish fries, right? It was just this underground sort of movement kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we're kicking around the idea of bringing it back here in partnership with one of our local radio stations.
Okay.
So it's not, but it's one of those things where everybody's like, when you gonna do the fish fry again? And then we get excited, but we have a lot going on and we know now what it takes to make it successful.
Yes.
But for me, to be 100% honest, Stephanie, um, the one that I did that I just told you about with when the police came in the news helicopters, I spent probably $4,000 of my money buying fish and food and everything for everybody, and I didn't charge a red penny because I didn't do it for money.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So perfect world. I wish that we could partner with someone and they would just give us a check,
Yeah.
$100,000 check, and we can just do it and let them be the sponsors, and we could make it free for everybody, and maybe have vendors and things like that to offset the cost. But
Yeah.
but yeah, it's I love there's something about food and music,
Mm,
food,
yeah.
music, and alcohol.
Yeah. It brings people together. That is for
It brings
sure.
people together, right? And again, I would love for it to be as diverse as it was when we first started. There was everybody there. There was
Mhm.
no, color didn't matter. None of the things, the labels mattered. It was
Yeah.
just people eating fish.
But I would love to see you do it again. And so, this is a season of expectation and shifting atmospheres with our words. So you put it out there. You want sponsors. You want sponsors, hundred
If you're
thousand dollar
listening,
sponsors, vendors
yeah,
to offset the cost. We put all that into the atmosphere and we speak and we believe it with expectation that the Father will show up and bring you that which you say you desire.
there you go.
Right?
There you go. And I actually have family down in the Tampa St. Pete area.
Okay.
My aunt, I forgot what it's called, the Greens, something in St. Petersburg. It's like the historically black area, like a little strip right down there. I can't remember what it's called.
Okay. I don't go down there a
Um,
lot, but I'll find out.
yeah, but we were talking about doing one down there in St. Petersburg.
Okay.
We were
Look,
talking
I'll
about
be
that
there.
last year. Yeah. So
I'll drive
who
across the
knows?
bridge for that. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. So we talked a little bit about the health challenges that Anthony experiences. So, in your own personal life, were you walking through that same situation?
So the book is sort of an amalgamation, like a lot of things that happen sort of compressed into one story,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
So yes, that did happen, but the timelines don't match up for
Okay.
real. So, but we added that from an area of but a lot of the reasons were the same though, right?
Mm, okay.
It was me, sort of ignoring, same thing. I was ignoring some of the signs,
Yeah.
getting headaches, like all the things. And then did end up going through chemo, radiation, like the whole thing back then. But that happened in real life. That happened in like '06,
Okay.
but it
Okay.
would happen way before the fish fry.
Okay. Okay. Now, did you
We
actually
just
face? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say, did you actually face like the hair discrimination in the workplace when you had your
Oh my
lock?
God, yes, yes. Oh my God, yes. And I had mine back in I started mine in '06, and I
Mm.
had them until 2017. So it was 20 years. Wait a minute, 2000? No, I'm sorry, 1996.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow.
So I had them way before they were
Possible.
commonplace.
Right.
Yeah. I even had black folks saying, you need to cut that out your hair, boy. You in here with that your hair like that."
And it
Yeah.
wasn't. I saw pictures like on your social media, like that you had from
Mhm.
back in the days. They were tame. It
Yeah.
wasn't like you had it all over the place.
Yes. They actually look almost like just like how your hair is now.
Mhm.
That's how mine looked.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
tame. So it's interesting that back then and even to now, people are still facing that same level of hair discrimination, even with the Crown Act and all these things that are out there. But so
People are
with
going people.
you, yeah, with you and having the experience with cancer and going through chemo, did you actually lose your locks then, or did you cut them?
I lost some of them. They and fortunately, at the time, the ones that fell out due to weak
Yeah.
hair, I mean strength,
Hmm.
I kept them. And then after I went through chemo and radiation, my loctician reattached them.
Right.
So
Okay.
she reattached them in '06. I'm sorry, '07.
Okay.
But it was just a few. Like I lost my eyebrows, I lost my all my facial hair,
Mm.
and the locks started to fall out. But the
Okay.
majority of them were you couldn't tell.
Okay.
You couldn't tell, that I had the people that knew me,
Right.
they told me this after. They were like, "Dude, we thought you were about to die because your skin was gray.
Oh no.
You looked like a zombie." I was like, "Bro,
Oh
y'all
no.
just gonna be staring at me and treat me like that?" Your homeboys don't give you no peace.
They sure won't. Nope. Anybody that's your friend, a real friend, they're gonna tell you the truth.
Right, right. They're talking in the group chat. I mean, we didn't have a group chat then, but I can imagine they was calling me a zombie.
Oh no.
That's what they said. They were like, "We got to go see the doggone zombie today."
Oh my God. Well, how are you today? Like, are you
Oh
fully in
yeah.
remission? Are you doing well?
Yes, that was everything. The last treatment was '06.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I'm what is this? I'm about to be 20 years out of it actually. So
My
2 more
God.
years it'll be 20 years.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's a
so yeah,
blessing.
everything is perfectly fine. But I
Good.
actually cut them in 2017.
Okay.
But it wasn't because of that. It was just Father Time started taking them
Yeah, you're like,
the old feet and yeah, started going back. Oh,
yeah, like I got a
yeah.
receding hairline. Let me cut this thing off.
Right. It was definitely one of those things. And I tried my loctician would put all these man buns and all these different styles, but it was really covering that hole in the middle. Got a hole in your natural, bro.
Right. You're like, okay, let me shave this right here, pull this up in the man bun, and make it all
Exactly.
right.
All that. All that.
Oh my
That
God.
was toward the end. I'd be in the sports bar leaning against the wall like this, like
Hilarious. Oh my gosh. Well, like this story, like I said, it just really, I felt a connection to the character, as you can see, because I
thank
was
you.
so emotional. Just, I
Mm.
love the way that you wrote it. I love the characters because clearly they're real people, right?
They
Um,
are.
do you still have a connection to a lot of the people that you mentioned in the story? Those characters?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every single one of them. Um, so what I learned is because this isn't, I guess this was once upon a time and actually still is being shot for film.
Awesome.
And we had multiple meetings before the pandemic and the writer's strike and all that.
Wow.
But I didn't know this until, we started having those conversations. We had to change the names, image, and likeness of all the characters. So
Mhm.
like the
Okay.
people that we say are male are female.
No.
People we say are female are probably male. Like we changed all of that,
Hmm.
with the exception of Anthony is the only real name
Okay.
in real life.
Right.
everybody else's name is different, because what we learned is that, if you do sell this, people gonna come for you. They
Yep.
could be your friends
Give
now.
them money.
When they see
Yep.
that check, they're gonna come. They're gonna be like, wait a minute, I was Michael. Like,
Yep. Yep.
yeah. So yes, I'm still have great relationships with everyone there. Well,
Good.
most of the people.
Oh, well, okay. Well, we won't ask.
Things fall apart. Yeah, things fall apart
I,
sometimes.
I think I understand exactly what you mean. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to. There's a saying from the book. You said you won't always be in the places you love most, but you can be responsible for creating all of those feelings of family and home wherever you go. And you really did that. You took actually that feeling of family and home from Louisiana, and you brought it with you, or Anthony. I'm just gonna say Anthony in the book, and he brought that with him to Atlanta, to his neighborhood, and I think he actually instilled something in the people in his neighborhood that they didn't realize they needed, you know, that they needed. Miss Adelaide, was Adelaide in the book? Here it was, this woman who, by all accounts, she was kind of miserable. She's only, but then you learn her story and you feel so sad for her, and you're like, oh my God. And what Anthony and the community were able to do was to bring her into a family that she didn't have. And
Correct.
to be able to see that and witness that. And that's for anyone who, and I relocated a lot as an adult. And it put me in a place. Every time I moved, I just felt out of place. I felt like I just did not have a family. And so when I ultimately ended up back here in Tampa, because I went to college here, and then I ultimately came back here, I was like, I'm back where I belong. I'm back with my family. I'm back with my people. And I realized, though, by reading your story, is that I could have created that everywhere I went.
Yeah.
I wanted it to just come to me, but I could have created that. Right.
Yes.
So
I remember moving to that neighborhood the first day, or the second day, Saturday morning, and the gentleman across the street, in real life, his name is Tracy. He had Al Green bumping. He was OG. He was like an OG. Had the barbecue going, had Al Green bumping.
Wow.
And, I remember standing out on the balcony screaming across to him, "Hey man, are you making a barbecue for me too?" He was like, "Yeah, come on over when you're ready." And I hadn't even introduced myself to him yet.
Wow.
Right. And then I remember going to Trader Joe's. They used to have this wine called $2 Chucks, or we called it $2 Chucks, and taking a bottle of wine to everybody on the street and introducing myself to them. And I remember, sort of being that thought of the people on the street. Some of them knew each other, but some of them didn't. And I'm like, this is such a small street. Why don't you know each other? Like, what? So I started to bring them down to each other's houses. You know what I mean? Like, you can actually do that. And most people are inherently good people. You have your bad apples, right? But again, just you can read spirit. I mean, you can follow energy and all that kind of stuff, whatever. But most people are good humans, right? And again, when you open yourself up as a person that is giving, then you'll start to receive more as well, right? Whether that, and I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about relationships, concern, care. People will look out for you. You know what I mean? But you can absolutely create that. Everyone listening right now, you can go talk to your neighbor. I know you probably see them taking out the trash, but ask them hey, what kind of work do you do? I mean, I don't want to get into that, right? But you can actually start to create that, right? You can do little kind gestures. You can put, a kind something on their mailbox and say, hey, I was just thinking about you and I saw this or saw that. But we can absolutely create community around ourselves, even on social media.
Yes. So for all those people out there like me that's introverted and don't necessarily always like to take the first, step to meeting people, it's possible. You get to create the neighborhood, the community that you want to live in by just going out and extending yourself to people, getting to know people. Like AJ said, extending care, compassion, just saying hello, right?
Correct.
And so
correct.
That's everything that you'll learn about in Atlanta Fish Fry by Anthony
Yeah.
A.J. Joyner. You have to
Hold
get
on
the
one
book.
second. Picture of this. Hold on. Can you hold it up again? I'm gonna take a picture to send to my
Yeah.
sister. Thank you. Okay.
All right. So atlantafishfry.com is where you can grab the book. And where can people follow you as well?
Yes. So I'm on social media. At the easiest place is Instagram, AJ Joyner, AJJOINER. And then LinkedIn, that's another place. I'm seldomly on there, forgive me.
I'm
But
seldomly on
LinkedIn,
mine
Anthony
too.
Joyner. And then also Facebook. It's just if you look up, it's MRA Joyner, Mr. A Joyner, MRAJOINER.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, just hit me up. I answer, I reply as much as I can. The DMs get real crazy because I'm actually in radio as well, and we're in a bunch of markets across the US. So
Excellent.
sometimes it can get kind of busy. So
Mm-hmm.
if I take a while to reply, please forgive me and charge to my head, not to my heart.
Yes.
But yeah, I try to reply as much as possible. And I would love for you guys to go grab a copy of the book.
Yes, I want everyone to go out and support AJ. I want you to tell everyone anything else that you have upcoming, other ways that individuals can support you. If you want to talk about Blooksy, which is very difficult for me to say for some reason,
Blooksy, yep,
Blooksy.com.
yep, yep,
Yeah,
yep.
share with the people about that venture as well.
Yes, so I built Blooksy. It's a software platform that we are using to help people write books and a myriad of other things. So, for example, we're working in schools. Children are using it for writing essays, poetries, haikus, short stories. So we have schools in New York. That's why I was just in Brooklyn. Schools in New York, schools in South Carolina, Beaufort, South Carolina. We have schools here in Atlanta. We're starting Tallahassee this summer. And then we have California. So we have children using it for that. We have universities, 8 universities that are using it for academic article dissertation and grant writing. So it's essentially what I built was a better version of Google Docs and Microsoft Word built
Okay.
specifically for writers, right?
Love it.
So if you're interested, it's only for the committed. It's 1 year, $300.
Okay.
To get in, commit to it. What we found is that when people pay for it for a year, they tend to finish a lot more than if they're paying monthly. So we got rid of our monthly subscription, and we
Okay.
saw our production rate go up as far as people finishing their books, right?
Very good.
So if you want to write a book, just head on over to blooksy.com. That's BLOOKSY.com. You can do that. And also, if you need help, even writing your book, we just literally this morning had our first call with our first franchise partner, where they're going to be teaching the book writing process. They're down in Florida as well,
Okay.
right? So again, we'll have other trainers, and we're already talking to someone in California and in New York.
Okay.
They're going to take our book writing process, and it makes it really simple, Stephanie, for people who want to write a nonfiction, how-to, self-help memoir, that
Yeah.
type of book. One of the practices that I learned in corporate America, my professional background in real life,
Mm-hmm.
is software development and building
Okay.
software.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned how to turn things into a systematic process that you can follow, right? So if you can follow a process, you can write a book,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Very good.
So yeah, we've helped over 500 people publish so far. And by the end of this year, hopefully, Laura willing, we've published thousands of children in different schools around the country.
That is awesome.
We got the green light to go into 5 prisons in California. So we're helping tell stories behind bars. We have a relationship with senior living facilities. We're working with seniors where every week they write one story in Blooksy. And then at the end of, not every week, I'm sorry, once a month or twice a month. Then at the end of the year, we'll publish them. So even if it's families that get their elders' books,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So I think that we can sort of create community around ourselves, right? And we have to, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, if we start to open up and share some of the experiences that we've been through, what we realize is that other people have been through those same or similar experiences,
Yes.
and sharing your story can help other people get through the things that they're going through, right?
Yes.
That's how you create shared experiences. That's how you create community. And just try to figure out whatever your story is, how can you sort of take the lens off of yourself and shine it on someone else?
Yes.
Use your experiences to shine a light for somebody else's path, and everybody can walk faster.
Woo, look, AJ, you are speaking my language because that's my
Yeah,
whole
man.
platform is about, sharing stories to be able to help other people heal. And I do that through a number of ways. I'm also a writing coach, a literary doula. So we got to
Oh,
connect.
really?
Yes,
Oh, yeah, I saw that. I want to talk to you about that. So, I
absolutely.
yes, I would love to. So, first of all, congratulations. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Um, I think that this is needed, especially in our communities where they're trying to
Yes,
take books off of shelves, right?
yes,
Our stories are important, they matter, and they need to be told. And if we could take the focus off of trying to do it to get rich and just do it to share our stories,
yes.
there are ways you can market it. I have other resources that I can share where if you want to market your book, we got a marketing plan for you, on and on and on. But think about the story and how it can help whoever the reader is,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So, but so yeah, that's where I want to, kind of leave with, grow wherever you're planted.
yes. Absolutely. I love it. I love it. Well, AJ, this has been amazing. I love it. I appreciate you for taking time. I know your schedule is, I don't like the word busy, so I'm saying very productive. Very productive, right? But for you to be able to come and just be a part of this platform and to be able to share your story, I value that. I appreciate it. And I thank you for that.
Thank you
Well,
so much. Thank you for having me.
well, I appreciate you. Have a wonderful night.
Thank
And
you.
I'm going to say some parting words to the people. Thank you, AJ. So, you all have experienced Storytime with Stephanie with author Anthony A.J. Joyner, author of Atlanta Fish Fry. You can grab a copy again at atlantafishfry.com. And I just want to leave us with a quote from the end of Anthony's book, and it says, "Life constantly changes. So home and family are where you make it. So wherever you go, there you are, and you actually can create the community that you desire, the neighborhood you want, and the people you want." So God bless you and